All right, chefs, today we're going to keep it in the family with our guest judges.
Oh.
Please welcome Top Chef Master, Susur Lee,
Wow.
and his son, Jet Bent Lee. Welcome.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
When I think of Canada, I think of Susur Lee. I remember, as a very young cook, when I ordered, waited, and received his cookbook.
Top Chef Master is definitely my favorite show he's ever been on. When I walked in here, it's like, I'm ready to go.
Well, chefs, it's time to unwrap your next challenge.
Welcome to the Eat Your Content podcast. I'm your host, Rich Herrera. Thank you for pushing play on my podcast. I definitely appreciate that. Just a couple of programming reminders. I'm continuing the Top Chef Season 22 episodic recaps, so make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on your podcast player of choice to Eat Your Content. Hit that notification bell to know when new episodes are dropping. Also, just follow me on socials at Eat Your Content, at Rich Herrera, on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Threads. Pretty much anywhere there's a social media, I'm going to be on there somehow. So make sure you like and follow there as well. Joining me again this week, the Grand Dame Pickle herself, Chef Savannah Miller. How are you, Chef Savannah?
I'm doing good. Back in Durham, which is great. A little bit of traveling last week. So feeling tired, but also super inspired.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm sure you are inspired a little bit by your travels last week. You had Dim Sum, Give Some. Big, huge event put on by Dan Jacobs, hopefully raised a ton of money for a worthy cause. But really, how was it like hanging out with all of your friends from Top Chef 21 again?
Oh, man, it was so much fun. It was we were all there for such a great cause. And everyone in Milwaukee, and I guess the Midwest, this makes sense, but is so nice. Just at the event, anybody that walked up to us, they were so happy to see everybody. And I'm sure it's better when there's multiple people, right? We would get noticed and then they see Manny and then they're like, oh, wait, hold on. Is that Michelle? And Amanda, Savannah, Valentine, whatever, right? And they kind of go down the list. And that was so much fun. But everyone was so kind. They were like, thank you for coming here. And I think we were all just like, thank you for having us. We're so grateful to be back. And we would all do it because it was such a great cause. But I think we would do it for Dan either way. So it was really fun. And we got to kind of party a little bit and go out and hit the town as a group, which we never had the opportunity to do before. So it was a little wild at times. I had to remind myself, I was like, oh, we're here to work. This is serious, but, it was really, really fun.
It was fun work though. Fun work, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it was kind of this moment of, wow, I'm really excited. I think when you get to a certain point where the stuff from Top Chef is really fun because you get to have all these crazy experiences and all these doors open. But I think it's really cool when you can use all that for a really good cause. And yeah. I think I feel like everybody wants to do that at some point, right? And it's cool that we got to do it together.
Yeah, it's awesome. You're using your platform now to promote a great cause that Dan Jacobs has been championing for a few years. Yeah, so that's awesome.
He's the one that got it together. So I'm stoked for him. And it's a terrible disease, but I feel like this type of stuff puts it in the light and it gives people an opportunity to raise awareness. And I don't know, I feel like I learned a lot about it too. So it was a really good time.
Excellent. Any fun fan interactions while you were there?
Oh man. I mean, again, just meeting people, I think it was really exciting for the people who were showing up that they could meet people from the season that was in Wisconsin, mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't really think that we think about it this way, but it is it's a very local celebrity type of thing.
Right.
C-list, D-list, whatever you want to call it. But, it's very humble, but it's kind and it's really welcoming. And I think every interaction was so cool, but I would say one of the funnier ones, we were waiting in line. There was this really busy bar and nobody wanted to wait. We couldn't really get all 8 or 9 of us in there at the same time. So we found this little very Wisconsin, truck, bar cart that was serving beers. And so we all went over there and no line. So we all get beers and the guy's like, what are you guys doing here? Chatting us up. And we're like, oh, we were on Top Chef. And all of a sudden he's like, wait. And he realizes.
Yeah.
So that was kind of fun because I like people just the surprise is always silly.
Yeah. That's always, they don't make the connection right away. And then you mention it. You're like, oh, you're that guy. You're that girl. That's awesome.
It helps. Yeah, when you're all together, it's more obvious, right? Because you're if you don't recognize someone maybe specifically, you will if they're next to each other.
Right.
And so that happened to all of us, yeah.
That's awesome. So what dish were you kind of responsible for making for the dim sum event?
Yeah, so it was essentially like a big walk around. I think there was like 400 tickets sold, and there's two big not conference rooms. I don't even know. It was this huge Italian community center. And actually, I think Paul Bartolota either owns it or runs, the kitchen out of it and does a lot of events there. So it was a huge space, and everyone was spread out, and it was kind of like a 1 or 2 bite amuse situation, like a food festival style. I did something a play on something we've done in Tempora, which is actually where I'm here at today.
Nice.
Yeah, a little change of scenery. That was essentially, a nari, the tofu skin that is essentially fried, and then it's kind of soaked in like a soy mirin mixture. It's like a little pocket, and so we take those and we make tartare. And so I did a hamachi tartare that was stuffed inside the inari. And then you kind of roll it up, you cut it in half, and then we torch the outside because it has some of that like residual sugar, so it chars up. And then I essentially, the tartare is very simple, scallions from Justin, things like that. And then we wrap it with nori and eat it with your hands.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yeah, simple and easy. I was like, we're not going to cook anything at this festival. I feel like I'm learning slowly over the last year. So.
Did it remind you of the 150 people like heading your way in one of those group challenges on Top Chef?
We were in it's because there's 2 big rooms, they separate you out, because last year I heard it was like insane with one room. So they adjusted, but I do believe that we were in like the farther room, maybe with a bigger bar, and which was great. Right. But I think we got hit second. So at first we were like, where is everybody? And I remember telling, like, Justin and my friend were there helping me, and I said, I'm not flying back with hamachi. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is staying here, so I hope I didn't bring too much. And then it's the second people found out, like, oh my God, wait, the other room is open. We were slammed. And it was funny because the other chefs maybe had like gotten close, or they may have like, wow, I have like someone helping me. We're through our rush, but you guys are getting hit now. So some of the other Top Chef people came into like the other room. And at one point I had to go to the bathroom, and like Amanda and Sue were on my line. So it was really, really fun. But there were a few people from Cheese Fest that were there, and it was just so funny. I was like, it's so nice to meet you. Like, it's so weird reconnecting, because like you might recognize them from coming to your table, but it's a totally different thing now. So all around, it was a good time.
Awesome. Sounds like it was fun. And I love that you're recording from your restaurant today. So I love the exposed brick.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. Looking forward to visiting it one day if I'm ever in the area. So I'll let you know.
You're so close. Yeah, you're close by. It's a quick drive, right?
Yeah, right.
Kind of. Not really, yeah.
Not really. Well, that sounds fun. Let's get right into the episode. Got a lot to talk about. We got a pickle challenge. We got another brand endorsement that was kind of interesting. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So let's get right to the quick fire. We have guest judge Susur Lee from Top Chef Masters and his son Jet. Did you ever watch Top Chef Masters when it was on?
Not really. I mean, I definitely know who this guy is. Like, he has a very recognizable face. But it's not like I know them from social media. I just haven't really watched him in Top Chef Masters.
Yeah, Top Chef Masters was really good. I think it ran for, maybe 2 or 4 seasons, I think, but it was really good. It was interesting watching chefs of that particular caliber go through the Top Chef challenges. So I think it's streaming on Peacock, so you ought to check an episode or two. So
I gotta
it's
catch
fun.
it.
So him and his son are famous for doing a Make It Gourmet kind of running gag on TikTok, which is really funny and interesting to watch him take like frozen pizza like they showed and make it gourmet. So the challenge was to do something like this. So this quickfire challenge sponsored by Chipotle. Chipotle, what white people think is Mexican food. Just kidding. So the challenge was to make a remix of the chef's Chipotle lunch order from the other day, which is going to set off paranoia bells for every chef tested on every future season of Top Chef, because nothing is safe or sacred, like Tristan was saying, right? If your lunch order that you just think is so innocuous is going to be a challenge the next day, what do you think you're going to do? You're going to order everything off the menu now and give yourself that much of a chance. What did you think about that? Just kind of an interesting take on that challenge.
I mean, I don't know. To be honest, I was like, what's happening? Like, it definitely caught me off guard. And I don't know. I understand the advertisement stuff, why it happens. But then I was like, okay, like, what are they going to do? And across the board, I was obviously expecting a lot of like Mexican forward flavors and dishes, which we got some of, I guess. I think I would have been paranoid too. Like I feel like when we moved in, they had little fridges for us and they stocked it from Whole Foods, and it was like pretty standard, I believe. Like, what do you just want to have off hours in your room if you need snacks? And now I'm like, man, I never even thought about that. Like, what if, that would have caught me off guard then too. I feel like I got like packaged tuna. So, I think it definitely caught me off guard. And for them, like Tristan said, like it would put me in a little bit of a state, I think, for the rest of the competition, like watching every move.
Right. And then watching it now, like I was saying, if you're future shift testing, you're writing notes now. Okay, if they take my lunch, it's like, okay, we're going to Panda House for lunch. Tell me what your order is. You got a lowly PA intern taking your lunch order, not knowing, oh, by the way, this is going to be tomorrow's challenge. That's got to be crazy.
Seriously. I would be looking up like the local, like wherever it is, like, what's the local tourism? Like who is like big companies in this area? Who might be a part of like, that's silly.
Yeah. So the challenge was they take the ingredients that their lunch was made out of and they have to create a remix of that dish. I thought it would have been funnier if they kind of emulated what Susur and Jet does on TikTok and take their actual lunch order and do something with it. So like, what was it, Vinny? He said he ate like a 12-year-old, got a cheese quesadilla and some chips and queso, just like, nothing fancy. Yeah. And like hand him literally that and say, okay, you got to make this gourmet just like Susur Lee does. That, to me, that would have been the funnier, more challenging challenge.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, it's like, which direction do you want to go in? I already feel like we're doing a Chipotle quickfire. So it's like, if you went that direction, I wouldn't be surprised. You know what I mean? Like you have to use the actual food. I'm grateful they didn't, but I guess it's because like I don't really want a Chipotle quickfire to begin with. You know what I mean? And,
right.
And I'm sure that like across the board, I don't know. I think that for me it was like we're getting a Chipotle quickfire and a pickle episode. I think I wanted maybe those to be on different episodes.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, you're in Canada. Why not a Tim Hortons quickfire challenge, right? I mean,
maybe there still will be though. Maybe we're just getting ahead of ourselves.
Maybe. Yeah, because when I think of Canada, I think of Chipotle.
Yeah, I guess I literally Google searched or Chat GPT. I'm too lazy, right? I was like, are pickles a very big Canada tradition? And then I was like, no, it didn't understand my question. And I'm like, do pickles come from Canada? You know what I mean? I was like, wait, what? Like just the stupidest things I know aren't correct. But I was like, what's happening? Anyways, with that being said, I thought this was, I just want to say, like, I think I said this last week, maybe my favorite episode yet. I think the season keeps getting better, and the cooking, I'm understanding some of some of that promo that we were talking about. Like, I feel like it's kicking in, and it's reminding me of every season where people are just very easy in the beginning to be like, ugh, I don't know. But like, so much happened this episode, and I just feel like the cooking was very strong across the board.
Yeah.
When people were able to do so.
Yeah, the level of cooking in this one, especially with pickles, was very high. So we'll talk a little bit more about that during dinner service.
Sorry, I'm getting so excited.
No. That's cool. That's cool. So let's talk about the quickfire top and bottom. So on the bottom, let's start there. Vinny, Henry, and Schwei were on the bottom. Vinny, poor guy, didn't have a whole lot to work with. So I mean, it was kind of expected. You just didn't have enough ingredients to do anything with. And they said it needed more flavor and it needed to be more melty, like with the cheese. Henry's dish was called basic, which is something you don't want to hear ever on Top Chef. And Schwei's rice was wasn't cooked properly. And then Massimo, Cesar, Paula, and Tristan were on the top. I thought it was cute. Caesar salad. What'd you think of that? That was pretty funny.
Yeah. In this episode, he has become my favorite person.
Yeah, he really stepped up this season, or this episode in particular.
Yeah, I guess I also just think he's a sweetie. Like, I'm just like, oh, he's a little sweetie pie. Like, I don't know. He's
really quiet. Yeah, he seems to be real quiet in the background.
Yeah, killed himself.
Yeah, it took some big swings. And then Tristan. So Massimo had a good grilled chicken. They like Caesar's charred avocado. Paula sauteed pork stood out. Tristan, though, again, with the inventiveness coming through, where he takes something like Chipotle, takes Tex-Mex and makes it Afro-Caribbean, which was fantastic. So what are your thoughts there on the bottom and the top and Tristan winning?
I mean, yeah, I guess Tristan's kind of killing it. He's definitely, you can see that people are kind of like looking at him now like, oh, dang it. Like I don't want to go against him, or I'm curious what he's going to do. And I feel like people are at that stage in the competition where you're able to, like, I don't know, get enough confidence and like people start viewing each other a certain way. But I think it all made sense. Like again, I don't really love this challenge. Like I don't look at this and I think this is a really good opportunity for them to flex a lot. But I guess, I don't know, that's the point. They're boxing them in. That's the point. Everybody had like the same technically pantry to choose from. So I think it made sense, but I'm definitely stoked for the two in the top because they had a killer episode.
Yeah. Tristan's doing great. I mean, he's got to be a front runner at this point. Just cooking, especially with the elimination challenge we're going to talk about here in a minute. Just the level of cooking that he's doing is amazing. So looking forward to seeing some big things come from him, especially when we get to like Restaurant Wars and going forward. So yeah, so I mean, it was a fun little quick fire. These brand sponsorships, man, are getting to be a lot. Which I get, it's an expensive show to make. Yeah. You got that 10K's got to come from somewhere. Might as well come from Chipotle's pocket. But yeah, it was an interesting challenge. I wouldn't say it was my favorite, but it was fine. I guess it was fine.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the elimination challenge. The guest judges were Danny Garcia, a friend of yours and Top Chef Wisconsin winner, and James Beard Foundation CEO Claire Reichenbach. So you are pretty good buds with Danny. I'm sure he had a lot to say within the confines of his NDA about his judging experience. So because just won last season and first time judge on Top Chef, so he's on both sides now. Are you able to share anything that he said? Now we'll change names to protect the innocent, but I'm sure he had thoughts and opinions on his time there on the judge table.
Oh, for sure. And Danny's also, he's so good. He's always by the book, right? So it's like no one really had a clue for a long time. And then whenever he was able to like kind of mention, oh, you might see me on blah, 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 we were like, what? And he's also really funny because I feel like he's great at describing people by their flavors and their cuisines. Mm-hmm. So I, to this day, don't really even know, right? But I know because he's so good at like putting people in a POV. I feel like he can almost see people as like the food they cook, and he's very descriptive in that sense. I think it was fun for him to go back. I know that he really has a lot of respect for Claire, the other guest judge, so that was kind of cool. But I also think him and Vinny have history. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I think that it might be a little weird to go and the one person, it's like, this is my person, right? And when you don't know any backstory and you're watching that episode, you're either like, oh, this is going to go really well, or this isn't going to go well, right? When they like spotlight that relationship to a guest judge. Yeah. And so just knowing Danny and knowing the standard that he upholds, I can imagine that like he might have had some thoughts and feelings about Vinny's performance. Even if he didn't explicitly say that, but I will say across the board, I think he was excited for it. And I don't know, I just think it's kind of cool. Like, so quickly to go back and have a chance to like sit next to the guest judges. I think the coolest part for him was like, oh no, I get to sit here. Like that was the stuff he was really excited about. So that was cool. I honestly thought he was going to be a lot more harsh. Like maybe they edited some stuff out, or maybe I'm just totally wrong. And he was like, no, what, Savannah, stop. Because I thought it was going to be more like, I don't know. He's such a high standard, but I thought it was cool to see him.
Yeah. Cool. Not
such as salacious as I thought. Yeah.
Such a diplomatic answer. You're so kind. You're so kind. I was hoping to be like, yeah, that porridge that Katiana made, straight trash. No, I'm just kidding.
Well,
Nothing
to
like
be fair, yeah, to be fair, I guess we didn't know for so long because he is pretty by the books, right? And then even if he wasn't going to say anything that would give anything away. So it's more of me just being like, oh, wait, is that what he meant? It's kind of funnier to almost decipher it myself because I still don't really know.
So now you're thinking back to that conversation. It's like, oh, maybe he meant this. And
so I don't know. Yeah.
So good. So let's talk about the challenge. You mentioned it earlier. It's a pickle-based challenge. Yeah. And this whole episode felt like not Canadian to me. Like it had nothing to do with Canada. There wasn't any unless I missed it. And if you're listening or watching, comment below, fact check me. But I don't remember any kind of history lesson about the history of pickles in Canada or anything like that. There was no, even the quickfire challenge, there's no connection to Canada in any way. This elimination challenge had no connection to Canada in any way. So I was a little disappointed in that. I mean, Canada is a huge, rich country. You had to leave off an entire episode with no connection to Canada. What are your thoughts on that?
I think, yeah, I mean, for sure. It caught me off guard, but also especially in like the comparison to last week.
Yeah.
When it's like, we're throwing you in, you're going to go and you're going to be working in these kitchens, not kitchens that just represent the diversity here, but you're literally going to be working with the people here, and we're going to get behind the scenes. And I guess that kind of threw me off because now I'm just like, okay, like it's a pickle episode. But I will say I loved it, and I would have wanted to do this challenge. I loved the idea of them being on teams. I love the schoolyard aspect of like the picking the teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I love always when they do a challenge where they're like judging tableside in the moment.
Yeah.
But I guess I was a little confused. But if I'm being totally honest, by the end of the episode, I was just kind of like entranced again. But like now talking back to it, I remember being like, yeah, why pickles? I don't know. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, same as you. I was watching it, and by the end, the dishes look so great. And by the time we get to Caesar's like dill pickle ice cream, I'm like, I'm all in. But yeah, kind of watching it back the second time, I feel like there was a missed opportunity of not highlighting Canada at all in this episode. Even as simple as like, we have this great Canadian pickler, to judge the dishes. I don't know. But yeah, just a missed opportunity, I thought. But overall, the episode was still really, really good. So yeah, let's talk about the schoolyard pick'em aspect of this. So Bailey and Tristan both have immunity, and because of that, they are team captains. And Team Tristan, in order of picking, he's represented by green. He picked Katiana, Schwei, Caesar, and Henry. And then Bailey, in order, picked Lana, Paula, Vinny, Massimo. I got to tell you, I was surprised Massimo was last. I did not expect that at all. What'd you think?
Really? Oh, I totally expected it.
Okay.
I mean, I guess I just think that like, I mean, I don't know. I'm not in their heads, right? When I'm watching that and I see, okay, Bailey, like she choose Lana and then they choose Paula. And I'm not saying like, oh, it's a girls club, which if it was, that's fine because there's plenty of boys clubs. But I just think that like, that wasn't, I think it's about vibes. And I think that happens a lot in the kitchen.
Good
and
point.
I think it's it's a good choice. It's like, man, if you look around and you're like, everyone's a strong chef. Like, I don't necessarily think there's any bad pick of a chef, especially at this point. You are going off of, I'm going to cook the best food when I'm having a good time and I'm not stressed. Massimo is clearly talented. Like, there is no question about it. I think he got picked last because people didn't want to deal with maybe the drama that they saw in the last challenge. With that being said, I think he really showed, like, by the end of this episode, I was audibly laughing at things he was saying and kind of like, I could see how he could be like a lovable jerk sometimes, you know, like older brother type thing, or I don't know, like silly back and forth. But in that moment, it did not surprise me.
Yeah, see, that's why I have you on here, because I was looking at strictly cooking ability. And I was like, Massimo being picked last to me was like, why are you picking like one of the stronger cooks last? And then I didn't even think about, okay, the chemistry in the kitchen, because, I'm as a viewer, I'm watching a snapshot in time of them in the kitchen. Whereas you as a competitor, you've been there and have had to spend the entire day in the kitchen with a team of people that you may or may not want to spend the day with. And Paula even said in her confessions, like, I don't know how I feel about working with Massimo again. So yeah, in what you're saying, I agree with you. Massimo being picked last, like, who wants to deal with that strong personality based on what they saw in the last challenge with what Paula had to deal with? Like, I don't want to deal with that. So it's a good point.
Yeah. It can tank a service. It's like, you can be having you can have the best menu possible, but if you have an interaction and it doesn't really go well, I mean, it almost could have happened again, like, I feel like, and not that I think those two things are really coming from the same place, but like, it's just kind of a scary thing.
Yeah, because the vibe in the kitchen can kill a service, just like you were saying. So you get the wrong personality in there and it just brings the whole team down. So, but he did good overall. I think he kind of kept things in check for himself. So it was kind of fun to watch him make his cannolis, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So part of the challenge was to create a 5-course progressive dinner featuring pickles. So the first course featured cornichons, second was full sour, third was dill, fourth is spicy, fifth is bread and butter. Any particular pickles you like? I mean, I'm kind of a basic dill pickle guy. I like pickles, but I'm not a huge connoisseur of pickles.
I mean, I love all pickles. I think bread and butter, I don't know if I would have wanted to, it's what I would snack on is probably different than what I would want to cook with. Dill is probably what I would have wanted to use, but I think I snack the most on like B&Bs or like cornichons.
Yeah. What's the challenge? What's the biggest hurdle in this challenge? Because with pickles, like as a non-chef, I look at pickles as like a condiment. I put them on a burger, I put them on a hot dog, but I've never featured something around a pickle, right? So when you were watching this, like, what's the biggest challenge you have to overcome to make a dish not so pickly?
I think that the challenge here is like dissecting the pickle for what it is. So if you were to just take, and like sometimes this works, right? But like across the board, if you were just like, I'm going to take this pickle and I'm going to chop it up here and then I'm going to use the liquid on this. And it's just like you're taking all the strongest parts, like that vinegar brine or something, right? And you're putting it into every part of that dish. I think it could easily overwhelm it. You just have to have more restraint. But where I think people like shined, or like I think of Lana's dish of like the simplicity of that, but which is kind of like what I'm saying, but having restraint and doing it in the right way, kind of, right? I think that what I would like to do in this situation is to like break down the pickle for what it is, meaning that like there's acid, but like, you know, how Cesar was saying, it is sweet. Like these pickles are pretty sweet. So you're thinking, okay, there's sugar, there's vinegar, and then you break down the spices of the individual pickling liquids. And I think the fun way to make a dish like this is to give each elements of the pickle. So when you have them together, it tastes like that thing without like, I'm just tasting the sauce and it has every element of my pickle in it. Therefore, if you have that with every component on the dish, it does become overwhelming very quickly.
Yeah. So basically kind of deconstruct the pickle and put different parts of that in the dish so that one composed bite tastes like a pickle.
That's what, I mean, I think that sounds like, duh, that's what everyone would do. But in the moment, sometimes it can get, like when things are getting hairy, I think it's easy to be like, okay, well, this is what I'm doing, and it has to have this flavor, so I'm going to use it here. I mean, I literally did the pickle challenge for the second episode of Wisconsin. We had to do the bar snacks. I was pickle against Danny. And so I'm saying from experience, I think I liked my dish. It was fine. But like looking back, I think I focused a lot on like, I need this brine and as many elements as like possible. And that's what I would do now if I was able to do the pickle challenge season 22.
Yeah. Interesting. So I want to talk about the kitchen that they cooked in. I don't remember the name of the restaurant offhand, but they mentioned it once and I didn't write it down. But a huge, spacious kitchen. Like that's kind of a rarity on Top Chef. That usually it's like tight kitchens. But this would look like an open kitchen concept. The diners can see in. Beautiful kitchen, just a lot of space. Were you kind of like, man, I'm kind of jealous I didn't get to cook in a big old kitchen like that?
Oh, it was huge. And I like the visibility. I think that if you don't have both at the same time, you either have a lot of space, but it's like around corners, or you're going up a stairwell and half the kitchen's downstairs. And for this one, I think it's cool because you need that type of communication, and it's helpful to be able to watch what your teammates are doing and to be able to help. So it's a huge help in this situation.
Yeah. I mean, that looked like a really nice restaurant. I'm going to go back and find out the name, put it on my tourist list and check it out. There was a restaurant in Tampa I went to where the kitchen was literally in the middle of the restaurant and everything was surrounding the kitchen. It was really, really cool. So to see that restaurant there would be really neat to see.
That is cool. I feel like it's we're a small restaurant here, but like we always have a space, there's a back kitchen so you can run and hide.
So speaking of running and hiding, let's talk about Massimo just about burning down the kitchen. And he even said to himself, oh man, I put wet potatoes in a big old pot of oil. And it's one of those things that you watch after the fact and you're like, oh, that's such a basic thing to remember. But I mean, how easy is it for chefs like yourself and others that are on the show, just those basics and fundamentals just completely blank out when you're on the clock?
Yes. The answer is yes, right? Like, and it's different for everybody because there's some people who would like never make that mistake, but they would make another one, you know?
Sure.
And so it's so easy to be like, what? How do you do that? That shit happens. And like, and also it happens, I think, when you do feel like you're in a good spot. When he's like, oh, everything's great. I'm just going to do like one more little thing. It's just one more little thing. And I feel like that's sometimes when those mistakes happen. But it was funny watching it because I remember being like, hold on, like go back. And I'm like watching it bubble up. And I was like, Justin said, is that water on the plancha and the water got into the fryer next to it and then a fire started? And I was like, no, but like he wouldn't, I can't imagine he would just put a whole pot of oil on the plancha next to the fryer, right?
Yeah.
Because then you have the fryer. Why wouldn't you use the fryer? But it's like, maybe it was full, who knows? And then it made sense. Like, you know, for some reason he did. And then the water combo made that happen. But like, I was actually scared. I cannot, like, big fires and stuff. I'm still at a point where like, I'll be like, whoo, I need a second. Like I need to sit down. Like I can be calm in the moment, but that would have really messed with my head. For him to like finish and execute and like crush, I was pretty impressed.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, that is a big old fireball right there.
Have you seen the season where they had, I think the fryer caught on fire? I believe is it a season with like Carla Hall and Antonia LaFaso? Maybe?
Oh, I don't remember what happened.
You should look up. I feel like when I was preparing to go to Top Chef, I was looking up like YouTube, like 10 worst Top Chef. You know, I was on YouTube a lot, like trying to find like the videos that people have picked out. And I think it's on there if you just search something like the 10 craziest moments or biggest emergencies. It was back in the day, one of the earlier seasons, and the fryer caught on fire. And I feel like I just remember something like that. And they had to evacuate the kitchen. And they were talking about it like people were trying to like save their food. And it's like, we got to go. Like, judging is canceled. You're all going home. You know?
Right.
But yeah, you should look it up. It's crazy. Thank God that this wasn't that.
Yeah. Savannah, a student of the game through and through.
I think, I can't remember if it was before or after I finished filming. I didn't know if I was trying to prepare myself or trying to see, like, will I end up on this list or not? You know?
Hilarious. So another chef probably wanting to crawl into a hole, Schwei, inadvertently sabotaged Henry by throwing away his entire mise en place. Like, talk about wanting to just hide.
We were talking
what was going
about
through
sabotage.
your head? Yeah.
Did we manifest this?
Yeah, I know. I think we put it out you put it out in the universe last week there, Savannah.
I felt really bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody involved. Like, it's like one of those things where I was worried too. I don't want Katiana to go home. That is not like a great day for me. But in that moment, I was like, for the social dynamic of these friend groups, I really hope that she does. And only because it's like, if it comes down to one of those guys and it's not Schwei, or if they choose Henry, I feel like Schwei has to be like, I don't know. And then they were like going about, I don't know. I think that it would come down to that, right? Like a self-elimination.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been drama filled. Like if Katiana's porridge was better than it was, and it came down to Henry and Schwei, and Henry was going home because of those missed elements, fully believe that Schwei would have fell on his sword and be like, absolutely not. He failed because of me, and I should go home. But that decision was taken out of their hands. Spoiler alert, Katiana was eliminated. But yeah, I mean, just the guilt that was on his face of doing what he did. And this is the later seasons of Top Chef where everybody started like jumping in and helping out as much as they could. If this were like season 3, the Bravo drama, I think, would have heated up. Nobody would have helped. Because they're like, oh, that's one less person I have to think about. I remember I had Chef Kenny Gilbert on to cover Top Chef season 20, World All Stars. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember when Gabri ran out of money and he went over his budget or something. He ran out of money on his Whole Foods trip and everybody kind of gave him some money. Kenny and I were talking about that. He goes, if that were my season, nobody would have gave him money. They would have been like, tough luck, kid. do the best you can with what you got. But that's the earlier, like when Top Chef was doing all the reality show tropes, the villain, the underdog, all that, the sabotage, all that stuff. But now is the more warm and fuzzy and kumbaya Top Chef, which is great. I love it. That's why Top Chef is so good. It leaned away from those reality show tropes, but and it really dug into the guilt of Shuai as opposed to, could have easily been like, well, he shouldn't have had it out there. It looked like a mess. I was just cleaning it up, but Shuai was really feeling bad. So,
well, yeah, it sucks. It's like in that situation, I was like, oh my, like I would hate to be Henry, but I think I would rather be Henry than Shuai.
Yeah.
Because then I don't know. Not to be like a victim, but it's just like, ugh. And it's also one of those things where it's like, it's just a silly mistake, but it makes sense that he's like setting up if he's next. He's like, he's on it. He's got his shit together. It's like, you feel bad for someone when they did everything right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah. And Henry too, in his confessional, he was blaming himself for his failed dish. Could have easily been like, man, if Shuai didn't like mess with my stuff, I would have won. Which ironically, the judges actually said that if he had all of his elements there, he probably would have won. The green team would have won, which is just a knife in the heart, right? If they're watching that back.
I know. And I mean, in the moment, I mean, I think that you're kind of watching like when the fire's happening, and I just feel like it was a little bit of everyone thought green team was going to win.
Yeah.
Or I guess maybe that's what I thought, and and then just towards the end, it's like, it was a little bit closer. And this one big mistake, I don't know. It just sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
And they're friends. They're buddies. They're like good buddies.
It's the Asian sensation. Are we seeing the breakup of the band? The Asians? No, I'm just kidding. I think they're fine.
Yeah.
They're fine. They're fine.
They made it through.
Let's talk about dinner service. So it was the first course was Cornichon. So there was two chefs against each other, and it was real-time judging. So they had voting cards out, and they would check off which one they liked, and the one that got the most points wins that round. The team with the most points wins the challenge. So first course was Shuai versus Massimo. Shuai had fried pickled mushrooms, steak tartare, and Dijonnaise. Massimo had fried pickled cannolo with the classic steak tartare as well. Massimo wins 6-2. Danny said he didn't shy away from the pickle and showed a lot of restraint and bounce. Shuai's tartare wasn't tight enough. At first, when Massimo said he was doing an homage to Le Express tartare, I always am worried about when people do that, because then he mentioned it in his description of the dish. I'm always worried about that because you're automatically going to compare the two. Now, it worked out in his favor. But can that be bad if you're presenting a dish like, oh yeah, I am emulating this, and then you're automatically putting it in the judge's mind, okay, it better taste like this?
Yeah, for sure. I think the context makes it easier to understand, because it's like, I would shy away from it 90% of the time. There might be like a 10% area where it's like, I'm doing something that seems so left field and not associated with the challenge. And so I just want you to like, this is kind of how I'm tying it back in. I think there's a time and a place where you can use it to your advantage, but most of the time I would never do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it worked out to Massimo's advantage. I mean, Tom, even at the judges table, said it tasted better than Le Express, which is high praise. But it could have backfired and easily if it wasn't up to snuff. They're like, well, it's supposed to take like Le Express. It was a fine tartare, but it wasn't that. So, points off. But it worked out for him. So that was good. Second course was Tristan versus Vinny. So Tristan, this is the sour pickle course. So Tristan did charred pickles, cured mackerel, and some variations of pickles. And Vinny did a smoked salmon rillette with also variation of pickles and a gnocco frito. So Tristan wins in a clean sweep, 8-0. Described as inventive by Claire, which is an adjective I'm going to be attaching to his name probably through the rest of the season. And Vinny's critique from his friend Danny, it's to the letter of what they made in Nomad, but under-seasoned. I'm finding that Vinny, he's not putting himself on this plate again. In his confessional, he said, I lost because I suck. And I wanted to shake him by the shoulders and go, you don't suck, dude. You don't. You're just not bringing anything of yourself to your dishes. You're cooking like a robot and not with your heart. What did you think?
100%. 100%. I think I'm like, what do you cook at home? Like,
Yeah.
what do you make? I don't know if he's already said anything about if he's has a partner or whatever, but like, if let's imagine, right? Like your partner at home and you're making a dinner, like if that's his scenario, what do you make? What do you make for someone that you want to like, that you want to love and you want to like nourish and you want to like impress and like something that like, that's the food that comes from your heart. I feel like that's a simple way to put it, but it's none of this food seems like stuff that sometimes really comes from his heart, which is also like such a, I know it's such an easy thing to say, but I also feel like I did a lot of that robotic cooking. And it's when I ran into mistakes where I would be like, but it's supposed to happen like this. And then it's like, okay, well, we're not there and it's not like this. So figure it out. That's when I got into some pickles. But I think for Vinny, this whole situation like is like beating a dead horse.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is. And he's not, I don't know if he's not seeing it. And I don't think the judges are telling him. And I think if they did, it'd be different. But he's got to get out of this. Oh, and I cooked this at Nomad. I cooked that at Nomad. And just stop. Just yeah, like what you're saying. When you're done with service and it's 2 a.m. and you just want something comforting to eat at the house, what are you doing? Do that. And put yourself on the plate. Just forget you worked at Nomad. But I don't know. Maybe he'll learn. But he doesn't suck as a cook. He's clearly a talented cook. He just needs to get out of his head, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So third course was Katiana. She did roasted dilly cucumbers, dill pickle, and clam vinaigrette. This is the dill pickle course. Lana did dill pickle seared scallop and dill pickle beurre blanc. Lana wins in an almost landslide, 7-1. Katiana's porridge was collectively bad. I want to know who voted the 1 for Katiana and kind of get in their head and be like, okay, how did you get past that porridge? Because they kept describing it as just like awful and like the worst thing ever.
I know, which bums me out because she said, she was like, my porridge was fine. I added that tofu and like at I think this is what she said, right? She was like, I really believe my porridge was good, but I added this tofu the last minute because I didn't think I'd have enough. And then they think it was like curdled, but it was the tofu. And from that, I was like, that kind of sucks. Like, it's one of those things. It's like that. I think that's why they highlighted it in all episode, right? Because they're like, thank God I have my tofu. Don't forget the tofu. Where'd we get the tofu? And then it's like, oh no, the tofu messed me up. That kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, it sounded like one of those things that sounded good in her head, but then in execution didn't quite work out the way she wanted and came back and bit her. So the fourth course was the spicy pickles. Let me look. Yeah, spicy pickles. So the fourth course was Henry with the braised short rib with pickle jus, fermented pickle collards, and braised daikon pickles, and versus Paula, who had the grilled octopus with spicy pickle chimichurri. Paula wins in a clean sweep, almost a clean sweep, 7-1, clinching the win for the purple team. They called it a beautifully layered dish, and Henry's wasn't pickly enough, obviously, because it was all in the trash. And then they dissect that at judges' table, and they're like, oh, well, that makes sense now. So Kirsten put up an interesting quote. He said, knowing that, I understand why his dish was the way it is, but at the end of the day, this is the dish that he put up. What did you think about that?
I just don't think that that's necessarily like the way that I think that they really view it. Really? I don't know. I guess I think that they judge it by the dish that you put up. I think they have to, like, in a sense of like the fairness. And I don't think she's just saying that to say it, but I think that like there's no way that I guess I'm just really curious what would have happened if they really if they tried to eliminate Henry. I can't say I know either way, but like if we had gotten that far, I just feel like I would have expected there to be way more of a conversation about what happened in the kitchen and like that it wasn't his fault. I feel like and there may have been a lot more conversation about it, but because it didn't really matter in the end, maybe we just didn't see it.
Right. Yeah, it would have been real interesting to see what happens if they tried to eliminate Henry. But yeah. Yeah,
because it doesn't feel fair to be like that. I mean, it's a dish he put up, but like, I mean, let's say that he threw all of his mise away. Let's say that for some reason, all of it was in the trash and he had nothing to put up. Then what? Or let's say that then it's a free for all and he steals so-and-so's food, and I'm just going to take your plate and put it up as mine, and it doesn't matter. This is the dish I put up, so I'm fine, right? At what point, like, I know it's like an accident, but it's like there have to be rules. If someone like really messes you up that much, I'm like, is this 21 and over?
It's okay.
Anyone that messes you up that much, it doesn't matter if it was a mistake or not. I don't know if you can totally be punished for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think the judges heard what happened and had to take that in consideration. And luckily, I think they had something worse than what Henry put up to lean on and say, okay, this porridge really was horrible. And I think Claire said it best. I would rather have Henry's, and I think you talked about this before, which one of these dishes would you actually go back and eat? And they said, I'd rather have Henry's short rib, flaws and all, than put that porridge in my mouth again. So I just think they were lucky to have a dish worse than that to eliminate. So the fifth course was Caesar. He did the bread and butter pickle curd, mustard seed tart, dill ice cream, and fresh cucumber versus Bailey, who did the bread and butter ricotta filled pasta pillows with braised red wine beef ragu. Man, Caesar, clean sweep, 8-0. I got to say, remarkably risky, big risk, big reward, super creative. I mean, dill pickle ice cream does exist. It's out there. I would never try it. But, name brands make it as a novelty thing. But to make it from scratch, I got to tell you, I was skeptical at first, but he really believed in it and knocked it out.
I was super excited about this. Like, the second that he was like, I'm just going to figure out the sweetness, I was like, I feel like I'm in your brain right now. Like, it's where I would want to be. It's exactly the course I would want, and it's exactly the pickle I would want. I really was stoked that he did it. And I also love that Bailey is kind of being like, no, I'm going to do what I think makes sense. I'm not going to like do what the judges want. So like, respect to her for like being comfy with not doing dessert. But the second that it was like, I hope he can figure it out, I knew he had it. I was like, he's got it.
Kristen said, look, this dish excited me. There's two dishes that excited them tonight, and that's interesting to hear. That's what you want to hear when you're on the receiving end of judging, that a dish is exciting. So good on Caesar taking the big swing. Could have gone the other way, but it worked out. I remember watching Iron Chef. I think it was one of the first Iron Chef Americas, and somebody did like a salmon ice cream, but because the secret ingredient was salmon, and it turned out horribly. So that was running through my mind as he was thinking about doing a dill pickle ice cream.
I thought about Rossica doing the honey mustard pretzel dessert.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Oh, again, doing something that's unconventional.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I just feel like you see these chefs and like, you hope, I'm literally like, on my best day, I could make that dessert. I'm like, their brains work in a different way, and it's super cool. Yeah,
and it's also so fun to watch too, as they're working this out in their head and they're putting it on the plate. And I looked, I was like, okay, I'd eat that. It looks good. I would try it. I'll try anything once. That's kind of my attitude towards most things. I'll try anything once. But his looked really fantastic. Maybe not twice, for sure once, but maybe not twice. But that looked really good, and so good on Caesar. So that brings us to judging table, which is an interesting conundrum that I found. That the purple team wins by virtue of points, but the two best dishes, according to the judges, were on the green team, the losing team. But they can't win like the overall elimination because they're on the losing team, so they don't get immunity, even though probably one of them deserved it. So Massimo wins with his cannoli, which looked great, but visually and according to the judges, probably wouldn't have won if Tristan and Caesar were on the purple team. What do you think?
I mean, I guess it's like, I don't know, it gets a little bittersweet. Like for Massimo, I mean, how do you not be like, great, all right, whatever, thanks. Yeah. Like, don't take it away. I'm going back to my hotel now. But I also think that you want to always win on the best day. And I think you always want to beat somebody because they also had their best day. And it sucks. I think I would feel a little bit like, all right, I still know I cooked well today, but because of these issues that this team had, it didn't feel like I want the best dish overall.
Yeah. I think that rule of the winning dish must come from the winning team needs to change if they do these team-based challenges, because clearly Tristan and Caesar's dish, I think, was better than Massimo's. Not knocking Massimo. His dish looked really good. I'd eat it. but a dill pickle ice cream, and then not just a dill pickle ice cream, but just hitting a home run with it, I think deserves immunity. So I hope in future team-based challenges in future seasons, they say, okay, you're on 2 teams. The losing team's somebody's gonna be eliminated, but the best dish overall is gonna win immunity. I think that makes for a more dramatic judges table, I think, and it makes things more interesting. But I just found it extremely disappointing. It made Massimo's win less meaningful, especially after the judges say, the 2 best dishes tonight were on the losing team. Massimo, you win. If I'm Massimo, I'm like, did I win though? Did I?
Well, and it's hard to especially when they go back to the stew room or something, and they're like, no, you don't pour your own drink. I'd be like, no, I'm gonna pour my own drink. You know what I mean? It's it's a little bittersweet.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. I don't know if I like that rule, but we'll see what happens. So Katiana is eliminated. She's heading to LCK for her. The porridge was what messed her up. So getting into Last Chance Kitchen. Crazy that Katiana and Kat are neighbors. Small world, right?
I love how they're like, be nice to me. We're neighbors.
Yeah, so the challenge is they have to make a cohesive dish with 3 pickled ingredients that are on this display case. The twist is they had to pick the pickled items for each other. So they weren't picking their own. They were picking for the other person. So Kat picks for Katiana cocktail onions, sweet banana peppers, and beets, all pickled. And Katiana picks for Kat asparagus, cherry peppers, and green beans. I was really surprised that nobody picked pickled eggs. Like, that would have been my first one.
Because you just want to tank somebody.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the point of the challenge, right? Like, I want to win. So you're getting pickled eggs. And I was hoping to see pickled pig's feet, a Southern staple, but I didn't see that on there. You would have got that too. But no, pickled eggs, because they absorb so much of that. There's nothing you could really do to tame it down. That would have thrown somebody for a loop. I think they were being nice. They were being a little too nice.
Well, because honestly, I feel like, they're like, I'm sure it's the mentality, like we just said, like, oh man, I don't want to totally be silly and I want to beat you even if you make a good dish. But at the end of the day, you're going home and we're going to be hopefully friends after this. I know we're going to see each other. It's you don't want that beef, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you're gonna be seeing each other, checking the mail, and be like, pickled eggs, damn you!
Yeah,
yelling from across the street, like.
I would egg if someone gave me pickled eggs, and I would go to their house and I would egg their house with pickled eggs or something, I would just leave them everywhere.
So Kat broke rule number 4, I think, of Top Chef. If something isn't perfect, take it off the plate, especially if it's not a required ingredient. And she even thought to herself to do that, except she tried to chop it up and hide it in her dish. And you're not going to hide stuff from Tom. You're just not. The only way I think she could have done that if she minced if she put it in a grinder and ground it. But Tom caught it right away.
Yeah.
You overcooked your shrimp, you're going home.
I know this, and he's always looking. It's especially in Last Chance Kitchen, he has just your dish and someone else's to really judge and worry about. And he's got all day, right? So I feel like it's probably the worst place to try to hide something from Tom, but I know that feeling too. It kind of sucks when you're in that moment, and sometimes it feels like whether you've committed to it on a menu or you've just committed to it in your head, or maybe you've just verbally said it out loud and you don't want to go back on what you've said. You can just try to be like, maybe it's not as bad as I think. And usually your gut instinct's right.
Yeah, and her gut instinct was right. Even as Tom was dismissing her, she's like, damn it. She knew she should have left that off the plate. And then she was trying to risk it and fly it under the radar, and it caught her. So Katiana wins. She moves on to Last Chance Kitchen. So your number 1 pick, eliminated in the main competition, but there's still hope for her yet.
I know. I was like, I guess this is like a sad episode. I was like, it was such a good episode, but as far as my points go, my girl's gone.
Yeah. Long way to go, though, so she could make it back. Who knows? So let's talk about the draft update. A close game this episode. So we had Paula with 3 points on my team, top of the judges table. Shuai was on the bottom of the judges table for -2, and Tristan wins a quick fire for 5 points, so I get a total of 6 points this episode. For you have Henry that was on the bottom of the judge table for -2 points. Katiana gets 0 points, -2 for being on the judge table, but 2 for winning LCK. So she breaks even. Lana is top of the judges table for 3 points, and Massimo wins elimination for 7. So you get 8 points. So you won the episode 7-8. That brings our grand total so far to 54-64. I'm still ahead by 10 points. So we're close. It's a good draft, or good scoring so far this season.
I know, it really is, like, like we're doing good.
Going back
It feels
and forth.
like the contestants.
Yeah, exactly right. Up and down, up and down. I'm not getting, by this time last year, I was losing by like double digits, like almost triple digits. It was horrible, but it was really bad.
Not this time.
Not this time. A little close.
Well,
So before we go, I'm very excited that I have my very first fan mail question for you. I know, right? It only took 79 episodes to get here, but here we are. I got my very first listener fan mail, so I'm very excited to go over this. So this question comes to us from YouTuber at Anthony88012, and this question's for you, Savannah. He said, what 10 food items were you allowed to bring from home during your season, and did you use any of them during your time on the show?
Oh, great question. I can probably name like 5 of the 10 off the top of my head. I would say I brought yuzu salt. I brought a cherry vinegar. I brought some dried and smoked Calabrian chilies from home that like Justin helped grow. I brought a maple block from Vermont, which is like condensed maple syrup, like made into something that you can grate. What else did I bring? Man, that was like a good chunk of stuff. And like shirodashi. Like I wanted to have like some more like well-known items, but like I brought like a really nice, like a tiny bottle of soy sauce that I paid way too much money for, that I would only use if I was like finishing a fish or something, right? Like a brushing on. Stuff like that. And I pretty much used all of it. The only thing I didn't use, I also brought something called Activa, which is like meat glue, if you've heard of that before.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, well, there's like, it's not really, like you have to be careful when you're using it, obviously. It's like, it adheres proteins to proteins, and you have to have things in your box that you bring that they don't have to be refrigerated. So there's like different rules you have to follow. Most Activa products, there's a few different types, but they need to be frozen. If they're opened, they need to be frozen then to be kept. And so I had to go with like a different variation that really didn't have as many uses, so that I didn't have to freeze it. And because of that, I didn't really find a chance to use it. But other than that, everything else that I listed, I used at some point.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Anthony88012, thank you for your fan mail question. I highly appreciate it. Thanks for watching. If you want a question, if you have a question for me or Savannah and you want to get a shout out in the next episode, leave a comment below. You can also click the send me a text link on the show notes, and you can send it that way. And if your question is picked, I'll ask and you'll get a shout out in the next show. So thank you so much. Savannah, we did it. We covered pickles. We gave Chipotle way too much of a shout out than I think I wanted to, but here we are.
Yeah, somehow us complaining about it turned into another ad.
I mean, look, Chipotle, if you're listening, you can throw me some change. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Right.
But thank you so much, Savannah, for your time. Looking forward to next week, and your restaurant again looks great. I hope to visit it one day. Any big predictions next week?
Oh, man, I will say, I don't think this is a prediction. Like, I'm not manifesting this. I just said at the end of watching this episode to Justin, though, if Tristan slips up, it's going to be like the biggest like shock of the season. I remember, I think when we lost Rossica last season, I mean, people were mad.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a big one.
Understandably so. And like, he at this point is kind of having a similar trajectory, if not maybe, like, I don't know the data by data, but maybe even more of a trajectory for a win at this point. And so I guess I just really hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah, at this point, it's his to lose, right? And Rossica is a great example. She was doing great, had one bad service, and it was early, unfortunately, and she was gone. So we hope not to see that with Tristan. So yeah, looking forward to next week and seeing what we're doing, and looking forward to seeing you again.
It'll be fun. Well, thank you, sir.